The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be? For me, Yummy. Louie T, welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So Washington makes a move on the eve of training camp. Camp starts tomorrow officially. The first practice that's available to the public is Thursday. So things are starting to get moving. And I'm a little surprised by the move. I'm not, but I am. So they officially released Andrew Norwell, which they didn't have to do that until they needed to make room, and they needed to make room. So this was a surprising cut made by the Detroit Lions. It's rare to see a team go to camp with 3 kickers. The Lions went to camp with 3 place kickers. They traded for one this offseason. They signed one from the XFL, and this is the guy that finished up the season last year for them, playing in 12 games, Michael Badgley. And they wanted to give the other 2 kickers in camp an opportunity. They got rid of the guy that was solid for them last season, and Michael Badgley, he's an NFL veteran, been around the block a time or two, which we see with these kickers for the most part. Unless you're a legit NFL kicker that has established himself as a consistent day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out kicker that is reliable, you're going to find yourself on the streets looking for work, and you're going to be doing this song and dance from team to team, kicking from upwards of 3 teams in one season, as we've seen with Joey Sly. That's how we got him. He kicked with the 49ers, the Texans, and ultimately landed with Washington 2 years ago. Finished up the year for us, and then he kicked all year for us last year with mixed results. So I think most of us wanted to see Joey Sly have competition in camp. He was not good. This is a problem for me. This is triggering for me because for so many years, Dustin Hopkins wasn't good enough. There was maybe 1 or 2 years where Dustin Hopkins was like straight cash money. For the most part, up and down, inconsistent, don't know what you're going to get from week to week. And they didn't bring guys in to challenge him year in, year out. He was just the unquestioned kicker, and it never made any sense to me. So I didn't think Joey Sly was good enough last year to warrant no competition whatsoever in camp. But had they not brought in kicking competition, I wouldn't have blinked. I wouldn't have been excited about that, but I wouldn't have really made a big deal about it. But the Lions made a surprising move. If they were going to cut one of those kickers that they had on their roster, you didn't think it'd be the guy that went 20 of 24, which is, roughly what, 85%? What is 20 of 24? That's 5 out of 6. So 5 out of 6, every 5 out of 6 kicks he makes, that's roughly 80%, somewhere in that neighborhood, probably a little higher than 80. So, and he didn't miss a single extra point, which is big nowadays in the NFL. And so I thought he'd be the guy sticking around and he'd be competing with one of these other kickers, but they moved on from him, which was a surprise. And I think it caught Washington off guard. And they said, well, hell, let's snatch this guy up before somebody else does and bring him into camp and see what he can do. So here we are with a good old-fashioned kickoff. We're going to see which one of these 2 kickers ultimately wins the job. I think going into camp, you have to expect that Joey Sly has the leg up. Ron Rivera is very familiar with him. He's had a history with Joey Sly. He's the incumbent kicker. He was not terrible last year. The reason that they brought in competition is that they think they may potentially be able to upgrade the position, and I don't disagree with them. So put that pressure on Sly, because I thought there were times where he handled pressure well, and I thought there were times where he didn't. So I want to see what happens when they turn up the heat on Joey Sly a little bit, see how he responds in camp. If he's the right guy for the job, he will respond accordingly, and he will make it known that this is his job. If not, he'll allow a kicker to come from the outside in and take his job. So I'm going to be honest with you. When I saw that they signed Michael Badgley, I wasn't all that moved. Okay. Generally speaking, you want to move the needle for me, getting a kicker, go draft one or go find an undrafted kicker from college that had success but slipped through the cracks. Go get one of those guys, okay? I'm not really looking for the NFL retread. They don't really do much for me because it's a reason they're a retread. However, unlike most positions in the NFL, understand the fragility of a field goal kicker. Kickers are weird. It's one of the few positions in the sport where you can go and have 5 or 6 different stints with different teams before finally latching on somewhere and getting comfortable and becoming a reliable kicker and the best version of yourself. I've seen that happen multiple times with kickers that came through Washington first, didn't have success here, go elsewhere, and it may be 3 stops later, but they figure it out. Sean Sweezum comes to mind, had a really good career for the Pittsburgh Steelers for a number of years. David Akers was here before he went to Philadelphia and became one of their best field goal kickers in franchise history. And Graham Gano ended up being stellar for the Carolina Panthers and outstanding for the New York Giants. So we've seen kickers come through Washington, struggle here mightily before finding their footing somewhere else. So thinking of it in those in that respect makes me feel like, what if we were to stumble into one of these guys that, sort of figured it out 5-6 years into their career, 5-6 teams into their career? That's what I was hoping Joey Sly would be for us. He was really good that first year. He didn't miss a single kick that first year when we brought him in mid-season. And so I was hoping it carry over to the next year. He'd find some consistency and we'd say, hey, we got the guy. That wasn't the case last year. He made a lot of kicks. He missed some kicks. He was huge in the Eagles Monday night upset. But there were games where he missed extra points. It almost cost us. He missed field goals. We left points on the scoreboard. And you can't do that when you're a team like Washington that doesn't score very many points. So let's look at the tail of the tape with these 2 kickers. I'll say this once more. Was it moved by the decision to sign Badgley initially? Because, again, I've seen his work. Talk to Chargers fans and they'll tell you, not worth a damn, right? Had one good season, inconsistent, dealt with some injuries. Here's another problem I have with Michael Badgley. He never really kicks for a full season, whether it be because of injuries or because he doesn't remain on a roster. He's only kicked in a full season 1 time. Okay? Now, Joey Sly isn't much better. Okay? He's not much better, but at least he's got multiple years of being on a team for an entire season. Badgley was with the Chargers for 3 straight years, but only kicked in 16 games 1 time with the Chargers in his span of 3 years from 18 to 20. Okay? And the 1 year that he kicked for the full season, he was awful, which is why they got rid of him in 2020. So, again, my confidence level with Michael Badgley, not very high. However, as I've said already with kickers, this is how their process goes sometimes. They start out struggling. They have to find themselves, kind of figure out what works for them. It may take them 5 or 6 years. It may take them 4 or 5 different NFL teams before they figure it out. And then once they do, they become the kicker that other teams that took a chance on them thought that they could be. And maybe we get lucky and find one of those guys. Personally, if these 2 are equal, I go with Sly. I go with the devil I know versus the devil I don't know. If they really, truly don't get what they're looking for out of the kicking position this year, I think they need to invest a pick or a high UDFA free agent. Like, they need to be very aggressive in attacking that market with a college kicker, or even, going the XFL route if need be, finding hopefully finding a diamond in the rough in one of these alternate leagues, the USFL, the XFL. That's why these guys are out here showcasing their talents, right? So anyway, I digress. Let's look at the tail of the tape. And you can decide what's more important to you, right? So Michael Badgley versus Joey Sly. On the left is the statistics from Michael Badgley. On the right, those of Joey Sly. So both are 27 years old, which doesn't really matter in the kicker realm anyway. Seasons played, Badgley 5, Sly 4. Teams played 4, Badgley 5. Each of them are going into the next year. So for Joey Sly, this would be NFL season number 5. For Badgley, this would be NFL season number 6. Teams played 4, 5 for Badgley. I think this could be number 6. Let me see. Detroit. Well, let's start with the Chargers first. Indianapolis, Detroit, Washington now. So I guess it would be 5 teams. And I think he played for Indy twice. Sly played for 4 different teams, has played for 4 different teams. So this is where we get down to the nitty gritty now. This is where we get to, the specifics. If we really wanted to get nerdy, if I really wanted to nerd you out, and I don't want to do that when we're talking about kickers, but we could have got into 30 to 39, 40 to 49, because those are the things I look at when we're talking kicker. And this shit matters. Until we establish ourselves as an explosive and dynamic offense, field goal kicking is huge. This is the difference between winning 7 games or 10 games. Whether you missed an extra point and you go chasing those points and you end up losing a game by 2 or 1 or 3, or you win a game. This is the difference. Field goal kicking right here, special teams. So I don't want to make a big deal out of this, but I also want you to know how important it is until we establish ourselves as a dynamic offense where a missed field goal here isn't going to kill you. This matters. When you're scoring 18.9 points a game, as we did last season, every single point counts, okay? Can't stress that enough. So field goals made and attempted. This is for a career thus far. Badgley, 94 of 115, which equals out to roughly 81.7%. So if we're being generous, we round it up to 82%. Meanwhile, Joey Sly, 102 kicks made versus 123 attempted. So 82.9, so it roughly 83%. So the advantage there goes to Joey Sly. Extra points, and this is the shit that pisses me off, where I start leaning towards Badgley a little bit. Extra points made versus attempted. Badgley, 155 of 160. That equals out to 96.9%. So roughly 96.7. That's 97%. All right. Meanwhile, Joey Sly, who has kicked a considerably less amount, all right? So he's kicked less extra points. So there's even a smaller sample size, and it's worse. 106 made with 121 attempted, which equals out to 87.6%. So that's disgusting for me. And this was my biggest problem with Joey Sly. It wasn't the field goals last year. It's the damn extra points. He missed like 4 or 5 of those last year. That's the shit that pisses you off. You make this momentous play, you're excited, and then you miss the extra point. And that takes a little bit of the edge off, right? 7 is way better than 6. And at some point, if the game's close, you find yourself chasing after the points that have been left out on the field. So that pisses me off. However, let's put it in its proper perspective. What matters more, 3 or 1? Okay, that takes us back to the first statistic that we really dug into: field goals made versus attempted. He's better in the field goal department. And here's another one that stands out that's huge, especially in the changing climate of the NFL. How many times last year did we have drives stall out at the 36 or the 38 with a big leg kicker who is accurate from deep? You can attempt these kicks, feel really good about attempting these kicks. I like Sly. He's one of my favorite deep ball kickers in the NFL that we've ever had, okay? There are plenty of guys in the league that can boom it from 56, 57, 58 with consistency. The best of the best can do that. You're not going to be You shouldn't be. Most kickers aren't hitting from 55 and 54 and 56. Let's call it 53 plus. Most kickers in the league aren't hitting from 53 plus at a high connection rate. If your kicker's banging it home from 53 plus at a 60% clip or higher, he's a keeper, especially if he's taking care of business from the money distance and in. Money distance, 40 to 49 yards. That's where most of your kicks are going to come from throughout the course of the season. If he take care of business there and he's at a higher clip than 60% from 53 plus, that's a keeper, right? So, field goals made of 50 yards plus 5 of 13 for Badgley in his career, which equals out to 38.5%. As a wise man once said to me, not very good. Not very good. Meanwhile, Joey Sly, 17 of 27, so a much higher sample size. And what some of it says, just not enough opportunities, okay? You play on teams that drive the ball a little bit further, get a lot closer to the end zone. You're not asked to kick as many deep field goals. But also what that could say is that you missed a couple and the coach no longer trusted you in those long distance situations to even trot you out there to attempt the kick. And so they just either punted or they went for it. So it could be a little bit of that as well. So I think it's probably a combination of the two, just less opportunities and maybe a couple of coaching staffs that said, you know what, don't send him out there. You know, he hasn't proven to us that he's good from 55. Let's just go for it on fourth down. Or let's just punt the football, pin him, and see if we can't get great field position back. Sly, on the other hand, has shown the ability. That's a great percentage from 50 yards or deeper. And I would venture to say that a number of those misses are probably 55, 56, 57, 58, 59 type, kicks where you're either before half, you're just trying some shit, or you're like, hey, he's got the leg. It's windy out. The wind is at his back. It's pushing it. Let's give him a shot, right? That's a really solid percentage from 50 yards. And we saw that last year. He was really good for us, plus 50. And we haven't had that. We've been void of that. Longest field goal made, Badgley a 59-yarder, Sly a 58-yarder. But again, the percentage just doesn't back that up for Badgley rather. And, I'm pretty sure Michael Badgley gave himself a nickname. I'm always leery of dudes who give themselves a nickname. Like, nicknames are supposed to be grassroots efforts, right? It's supposed to be a grassroots effort, and it's supposed to happen organically and naturally. And usually, you aren't the one giving yourself a nickname. Someone else gives you the nickname, right? Like, Frank Gore wasn't sitting at home one day and said, I think I'll call myself the Inconvenient Truth. No, he didn't do that. Somebody else did that, and people just ran with it, okay? So you don't make up your own nickname and trademark it, which this guy did, the Money Badger. And then you turn out to stink. I have a problem with that. So right now, my money's on Joey Sly. I'm rooting for Joey Sly to lock this thing down. I'm not a big fan of Michael Badgley, never have been. And I think Sly's the better kicker, but I'm all in favor of a kicking competition. So anyway, I digress. Let's see. I'm not going to keep you guys here very long. And we're free. How about that? Oh, man. Johnny Boy, 26. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Johnny Boy writes, Louie, we have new hope. We have a new hope. This is a movie in the makings. We'll have a chance at a chip in 5 years. If Sam is him, it will come sooner. Celebrate! Facts. Like, everything changed on July 20th. and everything was confirmed on July 21st. And that's all we ever wanted as a fan base. All we ever wanted was a chance. Just like everybody else. Just give me a chance. With Dan Snyder, we never had a chance. All we've been asking for is just give us a fair shot like everybody else. Now we'll get that. If we don't get it done, then we'll be like the other, 31 franchises every year that don't hoist the Lombardi. But at least we'll be like everybody else. For too long, we haven't been like everybody else. There's been a Super Bowl winner, the 30 other teams, and then the Washington Redskins / Commanders / football team. We've been like kind of pushed aside like, hey, they're different. That's why we got left off of shit, not mentioned on purpose. Yeah, that's why we were getting done dirty. Shit's different now, for sure. Malachi Malik, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, take the shackles off my feet so I can dance. Goodbye to Dan. Oh, whatever Mary said. LOL. Sing it for us, Lou. Yeah. We taking the shackles off our feet, man. Was dancing all weekend. Part of the reason I didn't get a podcast out, my goal was to get a podcast out today. I had to recover, man. My weekend was crazy. I'll chop it up with y'all tomorrow about that. But between my birthday and celebrating the independence that we have just fell into, this newfound independence, it was a hell of a weekend, I must say. So I really needed another day to recover. I really needed like a day just to be able to chill. But duty calls. Lorenzo Simpson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Zoe writes, they should have brought back Brian Johnson. He kicked well when Sly went down a couple years back. Yeah, Brian Johnson, no. That's a hard pass for me. There haven't been many kickers that I was like, yo, we should keep him. I think Brian Johnson might have made a couple of kicks. He might have been all right, but again, this is the thing you have to understand. Kickers who are on the street are on the street for a reason. Like you're a retread for a reason. Now, some of it could be we got confidence in this dude, because you could come into a situation where they already got a kicker, but that kicker strained his quad. He's out for 3 weeks, and so they bring you in. You come in. You're 12 of 12 on field goals, including a 55 and a 56-yarder, and you are also 7 of 7 on extra points on PATs. Or you're 12 of 12 on PATs in that stretch, which means that team was scoring a hell of a lot of points, which is why I said 7, right? And they still cut you when the kicker comes back, when he's healthy enough to kick, because they trust that guy. They've been through the fire with that kicker. They're not just going to abandon that kicker to give you an opportunity. So that's a reason there. Just all about, sometimes opportunity. Sometimes it's just unlucky. Like for Michael Badgley, it's just unlucky. Like he got cut by the Lions. Like he didn't think he was going to get cut by the Lions. He thought he kicked well last year for them. So he didn't expect to get cut, and he did. At the end of the day, kickers are usually on the street for a reason. So Brian Johnson, is he currently on an NFL roster? Probably not. There's a reason he's not. Don't think that he didn't get any other opportunities after he left Washington, because he did. He just didn't take advantage of them, or it just, he didn't wow anybody. I just know this. And until you find I treat kicker like I think teams should treat quarterback. Until you find the guy, you should keep swinging for it. Like, don't get rid of a kicker until you have a new kicker, right? Like he's established to you that he can do it, or at least he's instilled confidence in you enough to where you feel comfortable moving forward with him. But I would be bringing in kickers every single year, unless I had a Justin Tucker, a Harrison Butker, who wasn't great last year, but he's built up enough equity that he can have a down year. The kid in Vegas, Daniel Carlson, unless you got one of those type of kickers, like I'm looking for a kicker every single year. What are these young boys in college doing? Who's the next big thing out of college? Let me look at these dudes, because field goal kicking is pretty damn important. The Chiefs, they running it up. They'll F up a check real quick. They'll F up a scoreboard. But you know what the Super Bowl last year came down to? Harrison Butker making a damn field goal. Like you can't have no scary dudes in that position if you plan on winning the Super Bowl. Your kicker got to have ice water in his veins. I look at Joey Sly sometimes, and I'm like, you look like you got an upset stomach right now. Like this is really uncomfortable for you. You know, you can look at some kickers and tell they really don't want to smoke. And then there's other times where I look at Joey and I'm like, bro, you look like a football player. You were a linebacker, which is why he's so jacked. I'm like, you got this, man. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I wasn't a big Brian Johnson fan. Eric DeBose, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Eric writes, what up, Lou? What's going on, Eric? How you feel about Swearinger wanting to come in and mentor the young boys? For what? As a coach? Not as a player. I'm not using a roster spot for DJ Swearinger to mentor. Like, this isn't quarterback we're talking about here. Safety we're talking about. We got enough veterans back there. They don't have to necessarily be a safety. You don't think Kendall Fuller can mentor those young players? Tell them what to look for? He's played safety before. You don't need DJ Swearinger to come in here and tell them what to do. Like, nah, if you're talking about in a coaching capacity, if Ron wanted to go that route, knock yourself out. But on the roster, taking up a roster spot, hell no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He was out of football and ended up playing in the XFL for a reason. And the last time he was here, I'm not saying that he was wrong for what he said, but how he went about it was definitely wrong. Your coach told you, stop airing out our dirty laundry in the media, and you did it anyway. I like DJ Swearinger, and I like some of his leadership qualities, but I can't get down with that shit. And here's the beauty of, it's funny, going through this Reign of Terror series, it jogs my memory on certain things. And you sometimes, as time progresses, we alter the narrative of what reality truly was in some of these instances and with some of these players. Like, we make some players out to be much better than what they were or much worse. We diminish the dysfunction of certain situations, or we gloss over it as if it wasn't a big deal. Like, certain guys were headaches here, for as good as they were, they weren't always the best team players. We don't have that problem in our locker room right now. DJ Swearinger was one of those dudes, wasn't always a team guy, right? Sometimes he was selfish. He would do things that wasn't good for the team. We don't have that problem here anymore. Like, when's the last time, outside of that Sunday night game against Dallas where Duran and Jonathan Allen got into it, when's the last time we truly had some shit happen on the field with our players or somebody saying something controversial that took attention away from the product on the field? We had enough of that shit with Daniel Snyder and whomever he hired in the front office, whether it be, Bruce Allen or Scott McLuhan or whatever the case may be. We had enough of that going on with just Dan alone. We didn't need any on the field, and we didn't have any. The last two dudes, Ron got rid of them immediately, which was Darius Geis and what was the linebacker that we got from San Francisco that went to Alabama? Him. I can't think of his name. And, everybody's like, well, we should go get him. If he could play, guess what? He would have been in the league already. Somebody would have gave him a chance. Nobody has. So we tried to make sure we stayed clean because we couldn't afford any issues. We had to stay clean on and off the field from a player standpoint because we already had enough shit going on just with Dan alone. I think you've heard this numerous times. I've repeated it. But these guys have talked about the connectivity and the closeness in the locker room and how this is a great group of guys. There's no finger pointing. Everybody is for the next man. And it's a great group of guys to be around. That's the kind of environment you want to foster. And I'm not saying DJ Swearinger at this point of his career wouldn't do that, but we've known him to not necessarily do that in the past. So you're not looking for that anyway. That answer was a lot longer than it needed to be. No, I'm not interested. Ryan Rosen, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Ryan writes, Louie, did you see they put the bleachers in for training camp? I was just about to talk about that. First time in forever, if ever. Change has already happened and fast. Love it. Yeah. I literally, right before I was coming on, I saw the Commanders had put out a tweet basically saying, hey, we're ready. And I'm looking at this. I'm like, well, why don't you look at this? They done cleaned up the practice facility, put up real bleachers, got their little sponsors up there and got some nice places. Generally, you just stood up. Bring your lawn chair. Come out here if you want to sit down. Like, this is a legit thing. People are coming. Accommodate them. What did he say when he first got here? The first thing we're going to work on is building a rapport with the fans, repairing the damage that's been done to the fan base, making this environment one that our fans can enjoy. He's starting quick. I mean, that's a small amenity, right? Having somewhere for me to sit when I show up for training camp and not forcing me to have to get there at the crack of dawn and wait, because when you don't have bleachers, you need to be in front so you can see. If everybody's standing at the same height, I can't see if I'm standing behind 18 people, right? The simple act of putting up bleachers so that somebody sitting all the way at the top can see just like somebody sitting in the first damn row can see. How small of a gesture. That's a small amenity that Dan Snyder said, F y'all, I'm never doing that shit. It's the simple things in life. So changes are already being made. Already. And he said, look, we're treating everything around the park, everything at FedEx like home. It's our home. And we need to be courteous to our guests. You are our guests every time you show up for a home game. Even the visiting team fans, when they come, they shouldn't be afraid that they're going to fall over a banister and hurt themselves. You shouldn't have to worry about dirty water that looks like sewage potentially falling on you as you're sitting there rooting for your favorite team. That's disgusting. And at training camp, I should be accommodated. I'm not coming out to watch a game. I'm coming out to watch practice. Not a game. Not a game. Practice. So you should treat me with some TLC because I'm not coming out here for an actual game. I'm coming out here to watch you practice, to give you juice at practice. respect me. I deserve a pat on the back if I'm coming out there for practice. I can appreciate that. Job well done, Harris Group. Job well done. And the hope is they're just getting started. B-Hat, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member. Or excuse me. B-Hat writes, what are your thoughts on the team releasing Andrew Norwell? Who do you think is going to get a crack at starting this year at right and left guard? So we already knew they were releasing Andrew Norwell. We talked about that months ago. Like, our biggest question was, why is he still here? He's definitely not going to be on the roster. I've been talking to you about this for the last 3 years with Ron. It's easy to see when Ron is done with someone, right? Because when Ron loves you or he thinks highly of you, if a question is asked about you, or Ron will go out of his way to bring your name up and talk profusively about you, if you're out of favor with Ron, it's a one-sentence statement. Like, for instance, so at left guard, who's in the mix? And Ron talked for 45 seconds to a minute about Sadiq Charles. Sadiq's going to get the first crack at it. Ron talked for about 45 seconds to a minute about Chris Paul. Ron talked about the depth that they've acquired this offseason and guys they drafted and players that they signed in free agency and even some young guys that they like. And he never brought up Andrew Norwell's name. And you know what happened? Somebody said, hey, what about Andrew Norwell? And you know what Ron said? Oh, yeah, he's in the mix too. No, he's not. That told you all you needed to know. They were going to cut Andrew Norwell. And they had already, we talked about this. They cut Andrew Norwell unofficially when they cut Cameron Dantzler. We talked about it then. They were just, waiting for it. They didn't have to do anything. But they were going to cut him post June 1. Save themselves a little bit more money. And if they didn't need the roster spot, then they didn't have to cut him. They needed the roster spot. A kicker came available that they liked, so they cut him. Who's going to start at left and right guard? Well, we already know who's starting at right guard. That's not a conversation that we need to be discussing. That's Brandon Sheriff's position. Left guard is the only spot on the offensive line right now currently up for grabs. If you ask me, Nick Gates is your starting center. I don't think they're going to even make that available for the rookie, Ricky Stromberg. That is Nick Gates' position. That's why they signed him, not to be a backup, but to come in here to be a leader, a veteran on that offensive line. They like his toughness. They like his nasty. I think he's your starting center. So Ricky Stromberg is going to provide you with center depth, something we haven't had due to injuries the last couple of years in particular. And he gives you some flexibility as a guy that can also play guard. So we already know the other positions, right? We already know who's your starting left tackle. That's Charles Leno Jr. We know who the starting right guard is. That's Sam Cosmi. We know who the right tackle is going to start out being, Andrew Wiley. So those positions aren't, to me, up for debate. And I think center, I think I'm writing that in pen. Not magic marker, but pen. It's Nick Gates. So really the only position up for grabs is left guard. And we know right now it's a two-man race. It's between Sadiq Charles and second-year offensive guard Chris Paul. And the real question becomes, can Sadiq Charles, one, stay healthy, and two, just lock it down? He's going to be given this opportunity. It's his job to lose. Just lock it down. Reedy Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Reedy Davis writes, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Reedy Davis writes, Lou, can't wait and see what this year can be. Why can't we do what Phil did last year? Why can't we do what Philadelphia did last year? I mean, there's some reasons as to why we can't do what the Eagles did last year. One, the Eagles benefited from a weak schedule. I can't stress that enough. You look at the teams we played last year. We played the NFC North, which wasn't a terrible division, but it wasn't great. The Bears weren't good. The Lions were okay. And they probably pushed Philadelphia harder than anybody else in that division did. Why you bullshitting? They had them on the ropes week 1 after coming back. But the Eagles had them, that game well in hand, and then the Lions made a hard charge and made it interesting late. But the Lions, the Bears, the Packers, the Vikings, the Vikings were the best of that group. If you were a good football team, you beat everybody in that division. If you lost a game, you probably lost it to Minnesota, but they were beatable last year, right? If you lost a game in that division, it should have been to either Detroit or the Minnesota Vikings. If you lost to any of the other teams, shame on you, right? So you played the AFC South. That was the worst division in football last year. If you lost to anybody other than Tennessee or Jacksonville, shame on you. And you probably shouldn't have lost to Tennessee. Jacksonville is really the only one that, and again, if you caught Jacksonville early in the season like we did, you were allowed to get away with something. But just 2 weeks after we beat Jacksonville, they went to Los Angeles and spanked the Chargers. Like 40-something to 13 or 30. They put an ass whooping on them. So, those two divisions weren't any good. And then we talked about that all offseason. Like, hey, you got to take care of business. Between those two divisions, you need to be 6-2. No worse than, if you're serious about winning the division, you can't lose any more than 2 games combined against those two divisions. Eagles took advantage of that. I don't think they lost a single game to any of those teams. None of them. Swept the AFC South, swept the NFC North, and took care of business in the division. Only losing to Dallas and Washington in the division, and they lost to New Orleans. They took advantage of a soft schedule, and they dominated. Good for them. We're not going to be benefited by that. We don't have that opportunity laid in front of us. However, why can't we do what the Giants did last year? That's more reasonable. There are plenty of reasons why we can't do what the Eagles did last year. The parallels are interesting, but they're not necessarily the same. The Giants probably, even though their situation was different because they had a new coach and all of that stuff, it's probably a more similar situation to them because nobody was thinking that the Giants were going to do anything last year. I don't think everybody's dismissing us because of Sam Howell starting at quarterback. So I think it's more of that. People were dismissing the Eagles with Jalen Hurts, and I get that. And some of the things are similar from that respect, but the Eagles were really talented last year. Like, we can't sit here and act like the Eagles weren't a top 3 talent-wise football team going into last season. We can't, and that's not what we are. Like, we can't pretend like the Eagles roster wasn't loaded going into last season, because it was. It absolutely was. They made all the right moves. They pressed all the right buttons. That's not what we are doing right now. So, but why can't we beat Philadelphia? Why not? I'm not going to rain on your parade. I'm thinking more along the lines of why can't we be the Giants from last year in terms of nobody's giving us a chance. We're not supposed to be any good. We're not supposed to make the playoffs. A lot of people probably have us finishing dead last in the division. Why can't we go from that existence, which we did finish last, technically last year? You had 3 playoff teams, even though our entire division finished over 500, only division in football to do that. We didn't hold up our end of the bargain and make it a clean sweep and have all 4 teams make the playoffs. And thus, why can't we go from worst to first, or at least making the playoffs? I think that is on the table. But the Eagles roster was much better than ours. And they were in, like, this is year 1 of Eric Bieniemy's offensive scheme. The Eagles were into like year 2 or 3. What was that? The second year of their head coach. So that was probably the second year of Shane Steichen as the offensive coordinator. So they had already established what they were as an offense. Everybody was comfortable with what they were doing. It's a little different, right? It's a little bit different, but not that dissimilar, but it's different enough. The biggest difference is obviously the talent level. They were stacked last year. why can't we be fill in the blank? And I'll let you fill in the blank. You said Philadelphia. I'm saying the Giants. Either way, you're making the playoffs. And that's all you can ask for. Giants won a playoff game last year. So we'll see. Sonny Rawson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, Sonny. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, Lou, Sonny, Josh Harris and company done spiked this Kool-Aid. Here we go. We still partying. Much love for the channel. Keep it up, good sir. I appreciate it, Sonny. They damn sure did spike the Kool-Aid, man. And I can't lie. I am gobbling this shit down by the cupfuls. I mean, you know, I'm a sip slow guy. You know, pump your brakes and drink slow, homie. Drink slow, homie. I'm always an A man. Sip slow. Grab you a cup, fill it up. Just sip slow. A lot of y'all was like, yo, bro, I knocked that shit back, went, got some more, knocked that shit back, and I'm back over here, and I'm asking you to take that spatula and scoop a little bit more in my cup. And I'm like, bro, slow down. We even got to the season yet. You drunk already. It's okay to be drunk this offseason. You have every right to be drunk. And talking reckless at that. We deserve that. What we deserve more is for them to back it up. That's what we really deserve. And I think it's coming, personally. But we damn sure have spiked punch over here. And it is delicioso. Thank you for the super chat, Sonny. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My God, video channel writes, Lou, what's role for C-Rod do you see is best for this season? Best possible outcome for him. Honestly, I think he is your third back. You know, probably your guy, the guy that's going to be running down there on special teams. I think short yardage work might be his calling card, but I think B-Rob is going to get every opportunity in that short yardage role first. But what I think the easiest way for Chris Rodriguez to get onto the field is to create a niche for himself. And I think the best way to do that would be to, one, show that you're a hell of a pass protector and you can catch the ball out of the backfield. Like, you have to do both, because just protecting the quarterback isn't good enough. Because if they don't blitz, I don't need you to just stand in there. I need you to get out into the route and have sure enough hands that if shit breaks down and I throw it to you, you can catch it. But being able to protect the quarterback is the easiest way to find yourself on the field. If you prove to be the best pass protecting running back that we have, you'll find the field. Trust me. That's how Chris Thompson got on the field. You know, Chris had excellent hands and he was great change of pace runner, all that good. But the reason Chris was on the field is because he was excellent as a pass protector. Start out there. And then I think the next way he could carve out a niche for himself is short yardage situations. Big physical back. We give it to you. Remember, like Peyton Barber, what didn't really serve much of a purpose outside of short yardage, but boy, was he money. If Chris Rodriguez could carve out a niche for himself like that, that's priceless. That's priceless. But we feel like B-Rock can do all of those things. So I don't see the role for him being too big, barring some kind of, you know, unforeseen circumstance. If everything goes according to plan with the top two backs, we shouldn't see C-Rod on the field very often. I'm not saying you won't see him at all, but you already got, say, 65 plays in a game, and you already got two backs that you feel really good about that are going to eat up the vast majority of those snaps. And there may be snaps where they are on the field at the same time. There aren't very many snaps left. You know, so I could see him maybe sneaking on the field for 5 to 7 snaps a game. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to touch it. I mean, even last year, you know, there were some opportunities for Jonathan Williams every so often, but, you know, that usually came via injury. I think the Dallas game is the one that stood out the most. That was still without B-Rob. Keep that in mind. But I remember him getting a lot of touches, Jonathan Williams, that day. Between Gibson, J.D. McKissick, and Williams, I think all of them dudes was averaging over 5 yards a pop. I want to say Williams was averaging like 7 or 8, maybe even 9 a pop that day. We were killing Dallas on the ground in that first game. Just couldn't do shit with it. So being the third guy, there should be some touches for you. There should be some snaps for you. There should be something for you, and I think there will be something for him. But if those two guys ahead of him are putting out the way we expect them to, it won't be very much. He'll get crumbs at best. He won't be sitting down at the table and eating good. He'll be getting crumbs. Best possible outcome for him is he establishes a niche. He carves out a niche for himself. Humble King, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Humble King writes, what's with your man LB hating on our celebration? I mean, look. First of all, it's family business. You know how that goes, okay? As a family member, all we do is hate. That's what we do. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017, I gave them their props, but I didn't want them to win shit. When they went to the Super Bowl last year, I gave them their props, but I killed them for not winning it. Killed them for not winning it. We don't want to see anybody in the division doing better than us, and you don't want to see anybody in the division being happy, especially if they're in last place. So he felt the need to say something, and maybe somebody said something to him first. I doubt it. He usually doesn't have to be provoked, you know. So I heard his jokes, and I told you it ain't too much that needs to be said because I could talk till my face turns blue. But at the end of the day, we play the Eagles in week 3. We play them again in like week 7 or 8. We'll find out what's good real quick in the season. We'll be done with the Eagles by the time we get to the halfway point of the season. We'll be done with the Philadelphia Eagles. So we won't have to wait very long. Of course, I'm going to talk my shit, but I'm done with that portion of the offseason as far as I'm concerned in terms of trying to convey a message of Sam Howell is this or that and our receivers are this. Now we're gonna see. Football is finally here, right? I just pray that the injury reaper, now that Daniel Snyder is no longer here, I pray that he has mercy on our squad this year because and he wasn't too bad to us last year. I think because he knew Dan was on the way out. He wasn't too bad to us last year, but I already saw Chauncey CJ Gardner Johnson already went down with a non-contact injury. I'm hearing that he did not sustain a serious season-ending injury, but we'll see. The test will reveal what the severity of the injury is. I saw that Naheem Hines sustained a crazy freak jet ski injury that is going to keep him out the entire, like that kind of shit. We don't need that kind of energy over here, right? So let's keep that shit over there away from us. But look, haters gonna hate. We gonna hate on them. They gonna hate on us, and that's the way it is. All right. But guess what? Dan Snyder's no longer our owner. Things will never be the same. That's just the way it is. Oh, yeah. They're going to hate. We going to hate. It is what it is. Ryan Rosen. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy Ryan writes, can't remember if you've said something about this before, but now with new ownership and the fact that Rio and others go out there, when do you see yourself going to training camp or a game next? That is at this point, $1,000 question that I have no answers to. I'm debating on whether to go out there for camp. If I go out there, you guys will know well in advance that I'm going out there. But I have no immediate plans, like concrete, to be in attendance anywhere yet. But at some point, I'm definitely gonna. I told you we're gonna link at some point, whether it's during the season or during the off season, during the draft or something like that. We're gonna link. But we'll see. That's all I can say is we'll see. I know that doesn't answer anything, but that's the best I got. Red Wing 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Red Wing 01. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, with Nyheim Hines now out for the year, it reminds me we got to knock on wood and hope the Reaper collected his due from us. Bad enough losing Armani. Exactly. I think that was the Reaper's last parting shot at us with Dan on the way out. He's like, look, I got to get one more in while Dan is still here. He's about to be gone. So let me do my last, my last dirty deed to you with Dan Snyder as your owner. And I think that's what Amani was, unfortunately. But if he had to take somebody, I didn't want him taking Amani, but if he had to take somebody, like, stay away from the fraud, like the expensive stuff. Okay, stay away from the expensive goods. All right. Hey, you can take a bat to anything over there. I know that sounds bad, but don't act like there are certain guys where you're like, look, we got to make sure that guy's healthy or that guy's healthy. Those guys over there, I don't want anybody hurt, but if you got to take one, over there, leave those guys over there alone, right? So, yeah, I think we're going to be fine. I think that all of the bad karma and juju is been removed. And I think we're actually operating with a clean slate right now. Armani was the last guy to be a casualty of the black cloud known as Dan Snyder. So I think we're going to be fine this year. Got my fingers crossed. All right. Kevin Bailey, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Kev writes, what up? What's up, KB? Says, where can I cop one of those hot hats, my man? Keep the great content coming. Appreciate it. So I'm pretty sure my mods, specifically Miss Perry and others, have dropped the link to where you can get the hats. That's also in the description of every single video that I do. So just go down into the description. You'll find the links where you can click them. But again, they're probably in the chat right now. I appreciate the support. And, I'm going to keep the content coming. I don't know how else to conduct myself, right? But I will say this. What was I going to say? Yes, I cannot leave without saying this, but I do see some comments, I think, that I got to read. I have to start looking here. Got a comment here from Miss Perry. Been a member of the mob for 22 months. Shout out to Miss Perry, one of my most loyal mob members and a great mod, like Hall of Fame worthy. She writes, hit the like button if you haven't already done so. Y'all heard the lady. Hit the like button if you haven't already done so. Over 300 of you are out there, only 93 likes. We can do so much better than that. Let's push that thing up over a C note. All right. Anyway, I want to send out a special thanks to 4 individuals in particular. First of all, I want to thank each and every single one of you and I'm going to do this again on my podcast tomorrow as well. But this is the perfect opportunity to say this. I want to thank each and every single one of you for the well wishes on my born day. It was spectacular. All of the ones that came before my birthday, all the ones that came on the actual day itself. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. This was a great birthday for various reasons. One of the best. And I didn't even do anything. I've had trips out of the country. I've been on cruises. I've done things on my birthdays, especially with my wife. She is just really big on birthdays. So I've done so many things, and I didn't really even leave my house this weekend, and I had a blast. So, and a lot of you were a part of that. So thank you. 4 individuals in particular, though, went above and beyond the call of duty. And again, my wife was huge in doing this. She gets on my nerves because she's always surprising me and doing, really thoughtful things like this. And so she hit up Rico, Miss Perry, Mega, and Rich. And all 4 of them either sent me a video message or an audio message wishing me a happy birthday. It was great. It caught me by surprise. And it was awesome. So I want to thank you 4 in particular from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for your time, for your energy, and just for being such awesome viewers of the Louie T Network. I couldn't ask for a better cast of characters. The Mob Squad, all of you who are watching these videos. Again, it's an investment of not only your time, but your energy, all of your resources. I can't thank you enough for all that you guys do for the Louie T Network. And those well wishes from you guys on my birthday was the icing on the cake. It was the cherry on top. So thank you. A big, big, big shout out to Rico, Rich, Mega, and of course, Miss Perry. And another humongous shout out to my guy, Bernard Douglas, again, with the outstanding blessing. Again, if you want to donate, CashApp and PayPal are also alternate ways that you can donate and help power the movement known as the Louie T Network. Shout out to my guy, Bernard Douglas. So appreciate you, Kevin. And I've already seen Miss Perry has sent the link in the video. So if you are serious about copping a hat, that's where you can get it, my man. Thanks again. So with that said, that is going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me. I wasn't here to come talk you guys to death. I saw Washington made a move on the eve of training camp getting underway. And so I thought it was a significant one. Bringing in a kicker this late in the game shows that they're not necessarily satisfied or locked in on Joey Sly, nor should they be. I think Joey Sly ultimately will win this competition. He's going to have the leg up in camp. They're going to give him, just like left guard in Sadiq Charles, he's going to have the right of first refusal, okay? He's going to have the right to say, nah, this is my position. Back, bad back. But if he opens that door, it's already slightly ajar, or Michael Badgley wouldn't be here. It's already, it's slightly ajar. He can slam that shit shut, though. He can slam it shut if he wants to. But he comes in here tripping in camp. We go into the preseason. He's missing kicks. And that door goes from slightly ajar to wide ass open. Who knows what happens and whether Badgley comes in and takes his job. We'll see. But anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You will see me tomorrow for the Louie T Network podcast. And My hope is to provide you with 2 more installments of the Reign of Terror, trying to go ahead and get through these last 6 or 7 years that we have left. And then we can just solely turn our attention and focus to training camp, which is where it should be. So, but they start camp tomorrow. You'll probably start getting daily camp updates from me. So you know how that goes. Anyway, I digress. Y'all get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll see you guys next time. God bless and good night.